Hey everybody, welcome back to OneRoomOver Gaming. Today I am continuing my Let's Play of Crimson Gray, Dusk and Dawn. Not Dusk to Dawn or Dusk till Dawn, Dusk and Dawn. So last time I left off, there was news about a Francesca Benesca, some lady who's opposing Koitek and all that, and Lizzie was worried, and John was worried, and everyone was worried, and it was all bleh. But now we're here. The warehouse stretched forever in every direction, sterile white walls, yawning toward eternity. In the center of it they were impossibly tiny, yet they were everything. Her memory of the scene played out again, Miss Smythe having both of them trapped, trying to turn them against each other. In real life she had fought back, John had helped her, and trusted her even at her worst, and they had escaped. This is apparently reliving what happened in the first game. But this time, instead of using an injection to cause him pain, Miss Smythe began removing her clothes. She cast Lizzie a mocking smile, and then slid into John's lap, pressing herself against his chest. He struggled, but he was bound too tightly to do anything, as Lizzie tore out of the dream and found herself both upright in bed. She had snagged her knife from its place and held it in front of her, gleaming in the moonlight. Wow, that was fast. It took her a moment to come back to herself to realize that it had been a dream. John was lying beside her, coming awake as he realized how upset she was. There was no fear in his eyes, but she could see the deep concern there. Like, Lizzie, come on, we were sleeping. You just woke me up. Lizzie, are you all right? I'm fine, John. Just a bad dream. She gave... What is this music? She gave him a beaming smile and set the knife aside casually. But her acting wasn't good enough. There was still those lines of concern on his face. It was wonderful that he had come to know her better and better, but that meant she couldn't keep herself from being a burden to him. It can be hard to shake those off. Come here and rest, Lizzie. Though she wanted to pretend that everything was all right, she couldn't resist his soothing voice. Lizzie curled up next to him again, resting her head on his chest. It did feel wonderful, pushing aside the remnants of the dream. But this wasn't how it was supposed to be. What do you mean? She was supposed to protect him. John was the one who was sad, who needed to be protected from the world. He carried so much weight, she couldn't add anything to it. Lizzie bit her lip and squeezed him tighter, wishing she could be perfect. I'm sorry, John. Don't say that. I'm glad that I can be here for you. You always are. Come here and try to relax. She snuggled against him, much of her anxiety fading. But what if one day he wasn't there? What if someone took him from her? She would bathe the world in blood, and it would do no good because he was gone, and she would have nothing. Lizzie slowly managed to let go of her other thoughts and just enjoy his presence, but it took her a very long time to go to sleep. Lizzie needs to calm the brain down. Not worry about what if, and just live with what is. The lecture rolled onward, flowing around the edges of Lizzie's mind. She was absorbing some of the information, but her thoughts were mostly elsewhere. On the page in front of her, increasingly, she'd taken a back corner seat so that it would... Hold on now. Okay. Something about on the front page of her, increasingly. She'd taken a back corner seat so that it would look like she was dutifully taking notes, but in fact she was pouring out her thoughts onto the pages of her spiral notebook. Oh, we're doing that again. Lizzie paused a moment, looking over what she had written recently. It was chaotic, but a familiar chaos. She had written his name many times, frequently surrounded by hearts. In several places she'd drawn little pictures of herself killing Miss Smythe. It was playful, though, and writing out her emotions made her feel a little more stable. Thinking of him always made her smile, but Lizzie also stopped to consider John as analytically as she could. Her mind ran over the roll of images she held of his face, all the smallest changes in his eyes. He was doing better than usual, she realized. Though his smile was sometimes melancholy, it felt appropriate for him, and she didn't see any other signs of depression. There were no shadows in his eyes, and he had been very affectionate last night. The thought made Lizzie squirm a little in her seat, molten lava dripping from her mind all through her body and pooling deep inside her core. She let herself dwell on that shared moment for a long time. Pulling herself out of her thoughts, Lizzie set aside the notebook and returned to her real notes. She didn't need to take many, quickly jotting down the key points to catch up to the speaker. Once she was done, her mind began to wander again. It seemed that event planning had gone through. Their local campus activist groups had petitioned the right places, so now Francesca Kelsey was going to be speaking in town. Francesca Kelsey, that's her name. Not Faleska, or whatever the hell I said. That was a good thing, theoretically. It would disturb Koitek and it would make John happy. Lizzie had read some of her articles to try and vet her, and Francesca seemed intelligent. Her visit would probably give them nice things to talk about. She was married, too, and had been for 6 years. Everything was fine, so Lizzie didn't object to them getting a little involved in helping set up the event. Everything was fine. Lizzie's saying everything is fine like someone who doesn't believe anything is fine. Lizzie absentmindedly realized that she was gripping her pen tightly and stabbing it repeatedly into the side of her notebook, leaving it covered in gouges. So yeah, everything's fine. After class, Lizzie headed out and started to walk her usual path before she remembered that things had changed. Frowning slightly, she changed her route to head to the administration building instead, where she'd be meeting with John. Others would be there as well. The exact purpose of the event was unclear to her. At a minimum, they would gather and receive information about the various activities they'd be doing in preparation for the visit and speech. Presumably, after that, they would go do said activities, and she could be alone with him. If Francesca Kelsey shows up and is Miss Smythe, I'm going to poop in my pants. Except that he had expressed interest, which was reasonable. Perhaps they would participate. He had noticed her anxiousness, however, and had not committed to anything beforehand. That was very considerate of him, but made Lizzie vow to do a better job of supporting him. He made her do a better job, make a vow, or she made a vow. I don't know. As she entered the building, she saw that a crowd of people had gathered. It appeared to be an ordinary enough college group, not likely a concern, though it was more difficult to evaluate threats in a crowd such as this. She searched through the random people in a way, but was unable to find John. Realizing that she was going to be engaged, Lizzie refocused on Aaron, who was coming to greet her. I really feel like at the end of all of this, there can be no happy ending. So if there is a happy ending, good for it. But I just feel like this situation will never end happily. Like, there's too much chaos. I don't know. Aaron and two women, young, attractive women their age, wearing clothes that were stylish and extremely suggestive. Not physical threats, but potentially... Lizzie gave them... Lizzie gave all of them a brittle smile. Hey, Lizzie, good to see you here. Hello. We were just getting organized. There are a ton of things we need to do. We already printed a bunch of flyers to put up, but we actually got space on one of the big boards, so we need some people to help design a poster. And we also... Where's John? I have no time for your banality. I don't... Over in the corner. We were going to organize after... Thank you. Lizzie left them, though as she watched Aaron and the others a moment longer, Aaron seemed to have noticed she wasn't completely happy, which was a problem. Being herself around John had made her sloppy, though Aaron might be a bit more perceptive than average. Oh, I don't think anyone's gonna be too terribly bothered by your curtness. She headed through the crowd searching for John. Part of her knew that people here were probably decent, given their interest. No, too many of them were just looking for socialization, or a cause that could make them feel good about themselves. There were too many of them to judge, and some could possibly be threats. What is threats to what? Threats to what? Exactly. Am I gonna have to actually be concerned about something threatening? Like, is someone gonna jump us? Investigate everyone in the room, ignore others, and find John. Defend John from what? Ask Aaron for more information. Retreat and monitor the situation. Okay, well, the first two choices I got to make were easy compared to this. What am I gonna do? Threats to whom? Threats to what? I am not gonna ignore anyone and find John. I am gonna be crazy. I'm gonna let this shit loose. I am going to investigate everyone. No! It changes. Eliminate everyone in the room. Ignore targets. And find John. Defend John with knives. Interrogate Aaron for more information. Retreat, gather weapons, and monitor. Oh my god, I was gonna investigate, but investigate? What does this mean? Does it really mean eliminate? Or is this just like in Lizzie's head? Because if it really means eliminate, then I can't. I can't kill everyone. I don't really feel like we should be gathering weapons. I guess I'll interrogate. If that's what it's to be. Lizzie's mind raced, considering her best course of action. Then she heard John's voice. In a rush, she realized how close she'd come to making a mistake, one that might have hurt him. She wasn't stable, and thinking about the fact didn't help. Lizzie hurried to track him down and draw on his presence. So I don't even know if any of those were really a choice that I could make, or if it's just Lizzie's head not letting her be rational. But either way, I still feel like that, out of all things, was possibly the safest choice. That or gather weapons, but it'd be weird to just be hoarding weapons in this middle of this public gathering. Like, oh, here's a weapon. This could be good. Okay. Draw on his presence. Hi! There he was. Lizzie restrained herself as she simply skipped up to him, taking his arm like any normal girlfriend would do. Her fingers dug into his arm, harder than she intended, as he gave her a look with a hint of concern. Hello, Lizzie. What is that face? Sorry, I'm late. She beamed at John to reassure him that everything was all right, then also beamed at the nearby people. Not likely any threats, but she beamed hard at them anyway. Beamed so hard that she killed them all with her energy. I actually just finished organizing all the different tasks. Aaron is better at drawing people together than organizing the details, you know? That's so true, says girl who we can't see. Oh, there's girl. Some girl laughed unnecessarily loudly at his observation, prompting Lizzie's full attention to zero in on her. Slight pupil dilation, no visible flushing, heart rate slightly above average. Was that flirting? Was she trying to steal him away from her? That bitch! Dial it back. Let's dial it back. People are social. Somebody might get a little too close. Someone might flirt. This is not a killable offense. Can't do it. Just gotta stomach it. You know? You gotta trust your John. You gotta trust him. But we haven't assigned any tasks yet. What do you think, Lizzie? Do you want to help? Or do we have too much to do at home? It was an obvious lifeline to her if she was too stressed, and Lizzie loved him for it. Of course she could trust her John. He would always be true to her. Like I say, trust your John. Aw, you might have to go? We need all the help we can get. You can help yourself if you try. The girl's gaze turned away from John, too deliberately, a ruse, and toward Lizzie. She gave a smile that touched the corners of her eyes, indicating that it was authentic, but though Lizzie automatically mirrored it, she felt only a cold hollowness, much like a chocolate Easter bunny that's been frozen. I was actually hoping you could help us put up flyers. I've seen you around campus. You're super fast. I think she's talking to me. I'm super fast. What game did she have in mind with such flattery? What hell will you rot with such flattery? You devil woman who sees me run and knows that I can run speedily? Lizzie failed to see the advantage the girl gained, but she disliked the situation all the same. Still, there was a wide variety of different tasks available, and not all of them would leave John vulnerable. Only half. She had delayed too long in answering, leaving an uncomfortable pause. It had been a very long time since her social skills had failed her like that. Worse, it was causing him stress, which was unacceptable. Lizzie pretended to be looking over the organizational sheet to buy her a little time. It's up to you, Lizzie, but I noticed... Oh, geez, my neck. I noticed that we need a couple people to move cabinets and desks out of the supply room we're going to use. Think we could do that? Yeah, we could move some shit. Lizzie smiled as she realized he was offering her a chance. Though John was always considerate when he was feeling less depressed, he was especially attentive to her concerns. The idea of participating wasn't unpleasant, but it would be so much calmer and more wonderful alone at home. Lizzie looked up, smiled, and made her decision. Oh, yeah, make me make the decision. Oopsie poopsie. Let me see if these change. Don't participate. Let him participate, but keep him safe. Take care of it for him. Participate together. Take John's idea. We're gonna do this together. That is what we're gonna do. Togetherness. Putting up flyers sounds like fun. Let's go together. Good. We have a plan for getting them through campus, but also all over town. John began going over the plan, which was simple enough. She could probably have done all the flyers herself, but if she got to walk around with him, then it would be worth it. See? Keeping things together. The problem was that so many other people were involved. People John delegated to other locations. Suspicious girls with questions. At one point, they even needed to drive in someone else's car. It was too many people, too close for her. She had hoped it would just be the two of them. But God forbid that two people could be alone all the time in this world. Every life just keeps getting in the way. But as they worked, John was often smiling. The whole social environment working together with people toward the same cause seemed to make him happy. That was good, and he saved his brightest smiles for her, never getting too close to any of the other girls. It was fine. The event left Lizzie a little nervous, but she judged that acceptable. If she could drain stress from him into herself, that was the way it should be. When they got home, John seemed lighter than usual. She found herself smiling in response to his happiness and snuggled against him as they fell asleep after the long day, his hand stroking her hair. So I'm guessing that the intent here of this game, this time around, is not to... Because in the first game... Hold on. Me being really attractive. In the first game, I played as John, and the point was to not die. And that was easy enough. But it kind of seems like in this game, it's going to be a balance between keeping John less stressed and keeping Lizzie less stressed. So it's going to, like, I think I have to, I don't know for sure, I'm just speculating here. But it seems like if they're alone, if they're not doing anything too often, if they're, like, hiding, don't play this music at me. If they're, like, constantly secluding themselves away from everything, that John may fall into an unhappiness, even though Lizzie might be more comfortable, but they can't also, she can't, like, I can't also play as her and let her, in regards to John's feelings, like, do too much outside, because it's obviously stressful to Lizzie to be around people. Like, she's constantly, she just feels attacked all the time. That's just how she feels. So she can't be, there has to be a mix of, like, sociability, but also, like, time for them together alone. So she was fine because he was stroking her hair at the end of that. When her schedule went unusually well, Lizzie found herself actually somewhat troubled. She had no reading for classes, the shopping had gone quickly, and nothing had slowed her down. That meant that she had a surprising amount of extra time. On the one night, John needed to work late at the library. Well, fuck pickles. For a little while, she busied herself tidying up the house and cleaning her knives, but she found herself anxious. It was no serious premonition, just an uncomfortable feeling. She was glad to have him in her mind, and she was sure she would soon find his song again, but she also wanted him in the flesh. She spent a while writing in her notebook, many of its pages now heavy with ink, mostly plans for worst-case scenarios if something happened during Francesca's visit, and she needed to protect him. Lizzie would make a great, like, bug-out planner or something. Like, she could just write up survival plans for people who were preparing to live off-grid during, like, nuclear wars, zombie apocalypse, just because... Cults! Cults. She could write up survival plans for cults, like the one in Sagebrush. Shameless plug. Go watch Sagebrush. It's a good series. I liked it. You might not like it. Anyhow, back to this. But that couldn't hold her attention for long. This was a bad night to be home alone. After chewing on one knuckle for a while, so much so that she didn't even have a knuckle anymore, Lizzie decided that she should just go visit John at the library. Ooh, nighttime! I like nighttime. It looks pretty. I like all the stars and clouds. She padded across campus, noting how different it was at night. The normal dorms were still bright and would become progressively louder as the students started to party. A few were ambling further, likely drunk or stoned. They'd been partying already. They had been invited a time or two, but for the most part, she and John just didn't have connections to those crowds. Being together and off campus, even just slightly off campus, set them apart from other students. It is surprising how just being even a little bit further away from the main college life can radically alter how you spend your nights. Normally, Lizzie never gave the subject a second thought. Now she found herself resenting their happiness. All of them wasting their time so carelessly while he was working, alone, probably depressed. How dare they be happy? They should be jumping off roofs with themselves. Time wasters. If she urged him to take fewer shifts, he would. Lizzie knew that, but as much as she wanted more of him, she didn't want to unfairly force him to do that. If John thought extra work was necessary, then he was probably right. Hey, as long as he's making money and you guys can eat, it's good. What? Why are we descending into chaos in my headphones? Still, Lizzie's eyes briefly flickered to a couple sprawled over one another in the grass. Neither a threat. They were pulling at their clothes, though, and well past the point of just making out. They're gonna bone! Before they finished college, she wanted a moment like that. Not doing something like that in public, but simply being together by the trees, enjoying themselves. College would be a time of happy memories. Light years between the drama of their meeting and the difficulties of adulthood. She wanted something she could remember forever, maybe capture in a picture, yet right now everything was so complicated. Lizzie frowned and looked away, increasing her pace. It wasn't fair! Ooh, I liked the library. The library itself was basically deserted. Since few were going to do research on a Friday night, that was why John ended up with a long shift, and why he took it, getting paid to do his own work. Lizzie found herself shifting to walk silently instead of giving any sign of her presence. This could be a good opportunity to observe him without him being aware. Creep! It had been the first way that she had come to love him, and though the other ways since coming to know him were better, watching still held a special place in her heart. So back before she actually knew him, and she was just watching him from afar, like a creep or a stalker, she peered around a bookshelf and finally spotted him, just standing in the middle of the room, staring right at her. Weird. John sat behind a desk, reading from one of his books. He was making decent progress, brow furrowed in that concentrated look that she so loved. But occasionally his focus seemed to waver. She noticed his eyes grow a little distant, and he had to backtrack on the page. Sometimes when he did, he would look at a sheet of paper beside him for a while, occasionally make a note. Were they just his notes? But she knew John's note-taking habits extremely well, and that wasn't how he usually operated. It was as if he was trying to read, but simultaneously distracted by thoughts of something else. Maybe he's trying to write his own book. What could it possibly be? Her mind imagined that it was some kind of love letter, but she discarded that possibility as quickly as she could. No, John wouldn't do that. If he wrote a love letter, it would be to her. Who the fuck would he write it to? He doesn't even know anybody. He's never been away from you for 4 seconds. Look at that sad face. It's not a love letter. It's probably a suicide note. He looks so sad, though. Lizzie stared as if her gaze could strip away his skull and reveal every thought inside. If she just understood him perfectly, she could prevent him from being sad. There would be no anxiety then, only perfect trust for one another. Lizzie retreated further into the library just in case he looked up in her direction, and watched him from a vantage point even he wouldn't notice. He did glance up a few times, almost as if he felt her watching, but she was all well too hidden. She was disguised as a trash can or a random plant. It was wonderful that he could almost sense her, but Lizzie needed to watch him for now. Eventually, she would understand. Hours passed in a flash, and suddenly John was standing and yawning. After so long of his stillness, it was almost startling. Apparently his shift was almost over, which meant he would need to lock up. Which means you need to get the F out of the library before you get locked in, boo-boo duck. Deciding that she had watched enough, Lizzie sneaked through the back stacks and approached from near the entrance again, beaming. John smiled the instant he saw her. "Aw, you're pretending you weren't there." "Oh, Lizzie, I hope you weren't lonely. I just wanted to come greet you once your shift was over." "Lies! You're a sight for sore eyes. After this dead shift, just give me a moment to lock up." He worked so long, it was morning when they got done. It didn't take him long, and then they were walking across campus to head back home, her arm through his and her head leaning against his shoulder. They passed a couple, now lying still on top of one another. John seemed a little surprised, but just shook his head. Lizzie inclined her head toward them, then looked back at him and raised her eyebrows. "Where'd the night sky go?" "Sorry, I can barely keep my eyes open." "That's okay. I know you've studied hard. Let me help you rest." Okay, now it doesn't matter what time it is outside because they're inside. When they got home, she quickly took his bag from him to put it away before he could go to the trouble. If she acted quickly enough, he wouldn't need to use any more energy to make decisions and could just relax. Eventually, he fell asleep with his head on her lap. Finally looking truly at peace, Lizzie stroked his hair and stared down at him. Watching. She's always watching. She's a watcher, that Lizzie. Okay. Nope, I'm not gonna read that. That's enough. That's enough for right now. So it's getting a little. There could be some turmoil, but for right now, everything seems to be okay. Lizzie's just really worried about a lot. She worries about John. She worries about the future. She worries about threats. All the time, she worries. So she should learn to not worry. But how do you do that? Anyway, I hope you guys are enjoying this playthrough of Crimson Gray. It's a little different tact than the first chapter or first story, whatever you want to call it. But I like it. It's good. It's the life that they live together now, so it's not so crazy and hectic. I'm sure it'll get that way though. There's no peace in this game ever. Anyway, thank you guys for coming back to OneRoomOver Gaming. Thank you for watching, and until next time, you guys know where you can find me. I'll just be right here, OneRoomOver, playing games for you guys. And I'm out of here, so I'll see you guys later. Have a good day, have a good night if that's where you're at, the night, and either way, I'll see you guys soon. Bye, everyone.